Welcome to Talent Matters, the podcast where talent, skills and grit take centre stage. I'm Donal O'Donoghue and this is episode 29. The podcast is sponsored by Sanderson, talent solutions that transform businesses globally. Today's guest is a TV producer turned online coach, and you're very welcome, Elisha Forde.
Thanks for having me, Donal.
You're very, very welcome, and thanks for making the drive all the way from...
I was all the way from Leitrim, Carrick and Shannon.
Very nice. So as we like to do, for context, tell us a bit about your life growing up.
Oh, okay. My life growing up, I am from the west of Ireland, from Mayo. Grew up in a town called Ballina. Very average upbringing, like 4 sisters. So there's 5 girls in the house. My dad was a fisherman and mum did a bit of factory work when she could work because there was 5 of us growing up. So she stayed at home to bring us up really. And yeah, I mean, I was very much into sports when I was younger, played basketball, football, hockey, all of those kind of things. And suppose that kind of drops off around the teenage years, doesn't it?
Distractions get involved in the teenage years.
Yeah, a few distractions. And that's kind of, secondary school was great, no issues. And then kind of went to college when I was about, I attempted college at 17.
What did you want to do initially?
I didn't know. I had no idea. Basically, I was getting out of school and I was getting out of home because that's all I wanted to do. And I applied for a electronic engineering course in Galway, which I had no interest in. But I got the points and I went and I pretended to go for about 3 months and I partied in Galway until I couldn't party no more. And then I had to come clean and told my parents I wasn't going to college. So I had to take a step back and figure out what it was I wanted to do. So I ended up coming home working for a while and my dad made me get a job. He was like, you're not sitting around here doing nothing. Made me get a job. I got a job as a waitress, which I hated. And so I reapplied for college again. And then I went to Letterkenny Institute of Technology in Donegal and I studied design communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that include or what does that kind of prepare people for?
So design communication, it's initially a 3-year ordinary degree in kind of like different medias of design. So there was print, there was animation, there was web design, there was all of that kind of stuff. And then towards the end of it, in our final couple of years, there was an add-on degree where you could do things like camera, film, sound, bit of producing, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't really until I got to that point that I was like, something clicked with me that I really, really liked and I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the design aspect of it and made some great friends up there who I'm still friends with to this day. But it wasn't until I started dabbling in cameras and sound and, creating that kind of thing that I found something that I thought I could, really make into a career.
And what did you think when you were a kid, when you go back to when you were in school, when you visualized your life? What did you think you would do?
Honestly, I think I just wanted to do hair or makeup. That's kind of what I like. I liked to always have my hair done when I was younger. My parents would always say I'd have to be prim and proper leaving the house. Love to have my hair done. Love to play with makeup, Barbies, dolls, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I just would love to be able to do hair and makeup. And I wanted to be like a beautician or something. And my dad was like, no, you're not doing that. And I was like, why can I not do what I want? And he was just like, no, go to college, get yourself a degree. And then, if you still want to do it then, do it then. And I was like, well, okay. But after I left school, I never thought about doing hair or makeup again.
So when you finished the degree, tell us about the path you took.
So it was a bit of a long, windy one. But when I finished the degree, I went back to Galway actually, and I lived there for a couple of years. And again, just kind of went back, meeting old friends, kind of going back partying again. And then I actually worked in a dental spa. So do you know, it was one of those periods in life where I was like just taking work to work. And I worked in a dental spa and a couple of odd jobs until I realized, I think I was probably about 23 or so. And I was like, right, I need to do something proper with myself. So there was a lady down actually from Mayo, just outside Ballina, Gillian Marsh TV. She was looking to take somebody on to train them up really as an apprentice. So I got in touch with her. We had a conversation and I ended up moving back home to Mayo, back to Ballina, and started in with her. And I started working as like a junior editor and just kind of worked my way up in the ranks. So learning from the edit how to put a story together first, and then progressed into going out shooting, and then progressed into going out directing. And then after that, I decided to go freelance. So I moved up to Dublin after that.
Very good. And how many years did you do in the TV space?
I think I probably done about 18 or 19 years working in TV, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what were the changes that happened towards the end of that time?
I had always initially, I suppose, more so towards the last 5 or 6 years, I had always thought I needed to get out of TV. TV for me was a great job, and living in Dublin and living the life, you know, you're going out, filming, working with crews, you're really flexible with your time. So you could like, you know, work on a gig that is 16, 17 hours long a day, you know, not have any responsibilities, come home, fall into bed and get up and do it the same the next day. When I started having kids, it became a very different, you know, different way to deal with things, because it wasn't just me anymore, you know, and I was constantly on the road. I was constantly gone. You know, pre-COVID, you had to be in the office for pre-production. You had to sit around, trash things out, talk things through all the time. And then COVID came and we realized we don't actually have to be in these offices. And so it gave me a bit more flexibility. So it did give me another few years. So we could do meetings on Zoom, and we can do a lot of pre-production at home and casting from home and all of that. But I still was on the road when it came to producing and directing the programs. So I think for me, it was more, I was never around. I was always on the road. I was always overnighting somewhere or gone for longer periods of time than I had wanted to be. So towards the end of my TV years, you know, it was evident that it was something I wasn't going to be able to keep doing if I wanted to be present for my kids.
Yeah, it's a really hard balance, isn't it?
Yeah, really
especially
hard.
And like you said, you were freelance as well, so
Yeah.
then you've got the unpredictability and the precariousness of
Yeah.
the work. You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
sometimes really busy and sometimes quiet.
That's the thing. It was never like, I mean, the last 3 or 4 years of my career were really consistent. I had a lot of work, but before that, there would have been periods of like maybe 6 months where you weren't working, and then it's like, but I have mouths to feed. I couldn't really. And it was stressful. You know, it brought on stress and anxiety of when's the next gig going to come, or you know, how am I going to pay these bills, or whatever it was. You know, so. For me, it was like I had to find something else that meant I could be at home, but it had to be something that I loved.
Yeah, and you talk quite a bit about being a mum, and you've got 3 kids.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that process, I suppose, of, you know, having the kids and trying to balance it with work in the earlier days.
So yes, I have 3 kids, and I am bringing up the 3 kids by myself. I'm a single mum, and I suppose being a single mum makes it way harder. I have nobody to fall back on. I have nobody to really ask, you know, for help. It's just me, and I have been a single mum for 3 years now. I separated from my ex-husband 3 years ago, and I suppose before that it was really hard because I was also dealing with like a toxic marriage, while juggling kids, while trying to work as well. So when I look back now, it was such a stressful environment and place to be. But I just kind of ran away to work, and I made work because I needed to be out of that for a while. You know, I needed to be out of that environment. And so when I became a single mom, then it became harder to be able to juggle, you know, the kids, TV, being on the road. I had great family support. I wouldn't have been able to stay working in TV as long as I did if I didn't have the support of my family, because they helped me out loads, minding the kids, doing pickups, all of that kind of stuff. But it became fairly evident that I wasn't going to be the flexible producer director that, a lot of companies could, rely on.
Yeah. And you, I suppose, made the decision to share your story, through your Instagram about coming out the other side of a toxic marriage. Tell us a little bit about the decision to share that story.
I suppose I just wanted to be as open and honest as possible, because I know from speaking to people now that there are so many people, both men and women, that go through these types of relationships. And it doesn't need to be a marriage. It could be a friendship. It can be a workplace. But, when you are in that toxic environment and it's all it's really difficult to, I suppose, see that there's a light and see that there can be a different life for you. It's like debilitating. It's suffocating being in that situation. And so when I decided to change my career, my whole life was changing at that time, and I was figuring out who I was and understanding who I was. So I just wanted to share that for me, because I want both men and women to understand that there's light at the end of the tunnel. There is a better place for you. There's a better version of yourself, and that you can be, but you have to take them dark times, and you have to grow from it, because I don't know, like, you can either sink or swim, right? You can learn, and when you're in it, you feel like there's nothing to learn here. I'm just in one shit situation. But when you come out of it the other end and you actually have time to reflect on it, there's such a different life out there waiting for you if you can do it. And it's about the mindset change. It's about changing how you view the people around you, how you view yourself, and just talking to people as well. Talking is massive, and it might only be one conversation that you have with somebody. And I think that's on Instagram. It might have started at one conversation I had with one stranger, and it snowballed into so many people now talking to me and just about their situations and how they can navigate that situation to even just move away from it.
Yeah, and I think there's something powerful in sharing the story. And when I think about the people that are listening to this podcast, a huge proportion of them are probably in the 35 to 55 year demographic, if you like. And I know from my own circle and my own friends, so many people are going through this. And it's not that long ago in Ireland that there wasn't a way out. The people were kind of stuck in relationships, stuck in marriages. So I suppose, just to rewind it back, what was the path in your relationship? How did it go from what I suppose you initially saw as a positive relationship into something that became toxic? What were the signs that people can kind of beware of in terms of your story?
I think for me, it was a long drawn out process. Like, I knew, a few years in, that this wasn't a really healthy relationship. But because, like you say, it's only very recent that people actually start to, move away from these things. A lot of the time you would have been taught to stick with it,
get on with
make it work, get on with it. It takes time, it takes work. And so that's what was in my head. It was like, okay, try and make it work. What can I do to make it work? How can I help this person? And it drained me. It absolutely drained me. And it was, crack after crack after crack that I was seeing. And it was just like, I'll just smooth it over. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be better. It was the constant questions being asked about who I was talking to, what I was doing, where I was going, scenarios being made up in his head about things I was doing, and while I was in it, I was like, okay, what can I do to make him understand that that's not true? But instead of actually looking at myself and going, this is not healthy, this is not okay, I made it, I tried to make it work because I had 3 young kids. And that's the thing. It was like, stay for the kids. In the back of my head, it was always like, stay for the kids. It'll be okay. Someday things will get better. I distinctly remember saying that to myself in my head. Someday, it may not be now, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, but someday things will get better. And I was just always waiting for that day that never came.
And what were the factors that brought it to the point where you made the decision to get out?
For me, it was the paranoia, that he was a narcissist and he was super paranoid as well. So there was so many situations, like I said, that he had made up in his head. So he was living in this whole different deluded universe about our whole marriage and our relationship. So for me, I spent a few months trying to get him help, trying to do all the things I could do to make it work and make him see that what was in his head wasn't actually the reality. But I might as well have been talking to the wall, brought to doctor's appointments, tried medication. He was very much against it all. And it absolutely drained me. And I realized that I was putting all of this energy into trying to make him see something he was never going to see. And I was letting my mindset slip. My mental health was taking a bashing, my self-esteem, my confidence, everything. And like my energy was just gone. It was drained. And for me, it was like the behaviors were it was too much. I could not excuse the behaviors anymore. And for me, it was like, I had to walk away.
And it's what you're modeling for your kids as well, isn't it? In terms of what you're showing them as a healthy relationship. And I think anyone that's been in a toxic relationship gets to a point where they realize actually there has to be something better. And you've got a responsibility to the kids to show them either, you in a good place as a parent, or you in a new healthy relationship as a parent.
Yeah.
Whichever.
And that was the thing as well. Massively, like 3 young kids, 2 boys and a little girl, right? And a lot of the time for me was like, is this how I want my boys and my girl to see a relationship be? And the environment was toxic. The trauma that we were already creating for them, I didn't want them to spend years having to like go to therapy and do all the work that they needed to do to try and get over their childhood traumas, because they'll carry that into their life. They'll carry that into their relationships. And I did not want that. And, look, it was looking at my kids. I distinctly remember looking at my kids while they were really upset during an altercation. And for me, that was the end for me, where I was like, I can't put them through this anymore. They deserve better. And whatever way it was going to turn out, it was going to be a better environment for them once he was gone and I could do the things I needed to do by myself.
So what were the steps when you reach that point and you make that decision and you've the courage, because it takes courage as well, doesn't it? What were the steps? How did you approach it? And what were the initial steps that you put in place to start the next chapter and to start the rebuild?
Well, when he initially left the house, do you know what? And it's funny because it gets harder before it gets better, because you think, right, okay, they're out of the house, I can start to rebuild myself. No, especially when you were living with a toxic partner and they don't understand the reasons why you've made that decision. So there was a lot of mental and emotional abuse that went on afterwards. And I questioned my decision every day. There was a couple of times I was like, okay, maybe I'll just take it back and we'll make it work. But again, I always looked at my kids and was like, no, just stay firm. And I had my family who very much supported me and very much knew that I needed to be told no, So
were they aware? Had they seen or did they know that the relationship wasn't in a good place?
Oh, my family were very aware.
A lot of people hide it.
A lot of people do hide it. My family were very aware because they were the people I turned to. And they knew that wasn't right and that behavior wasn't okay. So they knew everything. So they were very supportive. And my sisters, obviously we're five girls, we're very close. They would know everything. So they would always be the ones to say to me, no, you can't do that. And had it not been for them, I probably would have went back a couple of times, you know. So I stood firm. And I think really to rebuild myself, I went to counselling. I had to, because my mental health was at the brink.
Did you find it good? Did you find it
Mate,
useful?
do you know what? I don't think I've ever done counselling before. I might have done 1 or 2 sessions before, but the lady that I went to was brilliant, and I just talked, and she gave me some really good resources to just start looking after my mind. Because I had already started working out and I had already started exercising kind of about 6 months prior to the end of the marriage. So, you know, I was still showing up for my workouts, even though some days I would break down in the middle of them and cry on the floor. I would still show up the next day and do another workout, because it gave me that little break, and it gave me a little bit of mental resilience to get through a day. So
I find that fascinating, and this theme keeps coming up on these episodes. It's that whole thing of when you need to rebuild mentally, the connection between rebuilding your body physically, and
Yeah.
we talked about it with people that have suffered assault, with people that have suffered different challenges, and that whole piece of working on yourself, on your mind, but also on the connection between working on your physical health and your
Yes.
strength and your
Yeah.
fitness. How do you see that all connecting together?
I had initially started working out at home myself after my third child was born. A few months after she was born, I decided I was going to get in better shape. And things weren't great at home, but I was like, I'm just going to do this one little thing for myself. And I did HIIT workouts in my kitchen for 30 to 40 minutes a day, 5-6 days a week. And like I said, there'd be days where I would just fall into a ball and not be able to finish the workout because I was so upset. I was so mentally drained. But I would still get up the next day and I would still do a workout.
And were you just following workouts from YouTube, or
Yeah,
how were you doing the
I was
HIIT
doing the
workouts?
body coach. So
Okay.
I was using Joe Wick's body coach.
Okay.
And I would do kind of the same workouts 4 or 5 days a week, and then kind of change it up the next week. But like I was seeing changes in my body as well, and I really educated myself on nutrition at the time as well. So I think it was that mix between working on my body and then also eating the right things as well. So that 30, 40 minutes, when I did get it finished, and afterwards I felt like I could take on the day. You know, it gave me that mental resilience, and doing it over time just built up that mental resilience. Because I don't think I would have considered myself a strong person mentally before this. I was very much, no boundaries, people pleaser, always looking for outside validation. I never had any of that. And then when I started working out, I just started realizing that was me putting that time into me. And while the changes came at my body, it wasn't really until about 6, maybe 7 months after consistently working out and consistently eating well that my mindset flipped. And it was like, this isn't for your body anymore. This is for your mind, right? This is why I get up in the morning at 6 a.m. before I have to travel 3 hours for work and do my workout in the morning, and then go off, get my day work, and then come back to what would have been a shit show at home, basically. But I know if I get that workout done that morning, I can get through the day a lot better. And that has just escalated that mental resilience that I've built. Like, I'm 4 years into my fitness journey now, 3 years lifting heavy weights in the gym, and it's just grown and grown and grown, more confidence. My self-esteem is where I never thought it would be, definitely a version of myself that I never actually thought possible to have.
And as you developed that strength and started to find, because it's all about finding yourself again, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the time parents, especially when the kids are young, you kind of lose yourself because you become a servant to the kids, really. And then it's that piece of finding yourself. So as you started to kind of find yourself, develop your strength, improve your mindset, how did you manage to get the manipulation and the stuff that was going on outside, the way you were saying at the end, there was a lot of after your ex had left the home. How did you get that to stop?
Like there was guards involved, there was court orders involved, safety orders, things like that. So, which in itself is a really overwhelming experience to have to go into court and sit there and talk about your experience and, get guards involved and write reports and all of that. So that was really, really difficult. But I think for me is I just detached myself completely from him. I had built up the mental resilience to say, right, you're going to say whatever it is that you want to say about me. And that's fine, because that's your deluded reality. And I'm no longer explain myself, because the people around me know me, the people around me love me. So I don't need to continuously explain myself or prove myself. So I think it was literally just the building up the mental resilience through the exercise and feeling my body properly and doing the work on my mind. Like I did, started doing a lot of meditation, reading books, listening to podcasts, things like that, and just filling myself with positive information, positive people, reading, learning. And it just became, the noise just got smaller and smaller and less loud as, the weeks and the days went by.
That's one of the biggest gifts I think you can give yourself when you've been in a toxic relationship, is to make the other person irrelevant. So then you turned it from working on yourself to helping others and sharing your stories. So how did that come about? And the career change, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, it was all so towards the end of last year, I suppose really last year I really ramped up my gym and my training. And I put myself in a position where I wanted to do a photo shoot, so I really wanted to push myself really hard. So
that's almost like bodybuilding stuff then.
Yeah, it is. It's not quite stepping on stage, but it's, you're still pushing your body to its limits and you're trying to get it super lean. But after that experience, I loved that whole process, and I learned so much more about myself in that process as well. And I had surrounded myself with really great people that really just want the best for you. And that's such a game changer, is having people who don't want anything from you, but want you to succeed and want more for you. So I pushed myself a lot and I loved the experience of it. And through that experience, I had some people message me on Instagram just asking, what would you do about this? How would you do this? Regarding fitness and all of that. And I'd be giving them advice and chit-chatting and stuff like that. And towards the end of last year, I was like, I really love doing this. And people would message me back going, oh, I did what you said. And, I'm down a couple of pounds this week, or, it really helped. And I just got a real buzz out of that. And I just decided kind of towards the end of last year, I was like, you know what? I wanted to leave TV. I was finishing up a job. It looked like it was quiet after Christmas. I was like, I'm either going to do this or I'm not. So then I decided in January just to give the coaching a go. And I was either all in or I wasn't, because I couldn't have done TV and tried to have coaching as a side hustle, because it wouldn't have been fair on clients. It wouldn't have been fair on me. So I just decided go all in. And I, jumped on a mentorship, and I got some support from others that have been in this position. And yeah, I've loved it, and it's grown, and I've helped lots of people so far, which I'm really surprised with, because it took off really fast. And I have a lot of really great clients.
Mostly online, or a combination of
all online? All online. I have UK clients and Irish clients at the moment. But yeah, all online. And you know what? It's the most rewarding job I could have ever asked for.
And how useful is the background in TV producing for all the content creation and stuff?
It's great, but it's also my downfall, because I'm so picky about it, whereas I could just bang out a reel easily in a few hours or in a few minutes. But I'm like, oh, I don't like that frame. Oh, that needs to be straightened up. Oh, I need to, cut out that, I'm really pedantic about it. So to my downfall, but it's really great, because that's what I love doing. I just love making content. I love scripting. I love shooting. I love editing, but it is very time consuming as well, so it's still a lot to juggle, but having the TV background has definitely helped for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of, I suppose, feedback for other people that are going through a similar situation to what you went through, um, tell us about the impact on the kids and on your life now that you're out the other side of it. How's everything going for you now?
For me now, I'm honestly couldn't be happier. I'm in the best place I've ever been in my life. And I don't know if that comes with age as well. But I think just moving away from all of that, and navigating it. And like, that's not to say there's not stressful days. Like some days my house is so stressful. I have still 3 kids. I'm on my own with them. It can be quite stressful, but in myself, I'm really happy because I've done so much work on both my body and my mind. I'm really happy. My kids are really happy. They're in a really safe, loving environment, and that's all I've ever wanted for them. Um, they're growing up really fast, really fast. And even in those 3 years, I can see the positive effect of, having a loving environment has had on them, the little people that they're shaping into. My middle son, which I'm only kind of figuring out now, is, going to be getting assessed for autism. And that's very recent. So, I kind of kick myself because I feel like I didn't see the signs, but also I didn't know what the signs were. I thought, he was really struggling because of the marriage breakup and not having a dad around. But he potentially has autism. So I'm in the very long process of getting him assessed for that. So like everyday tasks are a struggle, but we're learning to adapt to it. And the kids had learned to adapt to the separation very fast. Like kids are
They're
resilient.
so resilient, aren't
And
they?
people say that all the time, and you don't know it until they have to be resilient, but they bloody are. Like they're really, really really good at adapting to that. And I think it's just once you are there to support them in every way that you can, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the biggest gifts, isn't it?
yeah,
Like as you said, if somebody's in a toxic relationship and the home life is chaotic and just creating that kind of tense environment for the kids, the getting out the other side of it and actually having a safe shelter and a safe place for them it's so important.
yeah, it is so important, and it is difficult. And for anyone that's in that situation and thinking, oh, I'll just stay for the kids, I'll just wait for you're doing more harm than anything staying for the kids, because the long lasting effect that's going to have on them and what they're going to bring into relationships or bring into their own lives, with like whatever it is that's going on. What's better is for them to have either two separate parents living apart. And if you can be loving and co-parent together, great. If you can't, I mean, I had to cut my ex-husband off altogether. Now, for me, I'm lucky because he has moved out of the country. A lot of people don't have that option, but the effect that that's had on the kids has been really difficult as well. So I've had to put supports in place for that, play therapy, other different kind of people that they can talk to, because I can't navigate that by myself. And that's, I suppose, what I found the most difficult is trying to navigate their poor little heads and their poor little minds and trying to make them understand the situation. And I'm open and honest with them about, as I can be for their level, And when they ask me where their dad is, I tell them and I tell them that when they're older, they can go find him if they want and ask him whatever questions they want. I don't speak bad about him. I don't say anything, and I don't talk about him unless they ask me, and then we'll have a conversation about it. But it's a hard one to navigate because you don't know what you can say and you can't say.
Yeah, and there's no playbook.
There
All you can do is the best you can in the moment.
And sometimes you feel like you're not doing your best because it's so stressful and so difficult. But at the end of the day, like what I've started to do as well, and what I've learned to do from working with people and having a mindset coach and things like that, is just writing down some small little wins that you've had for the day. just to try and end the day on a positive. And it might just be that, your child had one less tantrum, or, you got out the door 30 seconds earlier than you had planned. Small wins like that are a great way to add up, getting and making progress and getting through the day a little bit easier.
Well, Elisha, I think you have a brilliant story, and I think a lot of people are going to take some lessons from it. And I'm sure people will want to get in touch with you and follow your work. So where can they find you?
Mainly on Instagram. It's Elisha Forde Fitness, and I'm on Instagram.
Super. Well, look, we will share your Instagram in the show notes. And thank you for making the long drive this morning. It's great to see. It's much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to our YouTube, follow our Instagram. They're both at talentmatters_podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor, Sanderson. Thanks, Elisha, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.